In a universe full of ideas, we draw lightness from the dark to a place where opposites attract. Right meets left, positive touches negative, sparking an explosion of truth. Because politics makes strange bedfellows.
And I know we're running overtime. Did you have any other tapes from your archives you'd like to share? I guess not. Okay.
No, I think you've
I'll
seen
take
enough.
no for an answer. I think I better stop too. But before we go, I wanted to end on a note of remembrance for probably my greatest hero of all time, the lady who inspired me to become a journalist. Of course, David Brinkley was my favorite male journalist, broadcast journalist, but the woman who told me that yes, girls can do this job too, and that you should try it out and see if you can do it, was a lady named Jessica Savitch.
This is NBC News Update, brought to you by Lipton Tea Bags. Now here's Jessica Savitch.
Good evening. Polish labor leaders tonight agreed to strike on Wednesday if the communist government does not agree to complete independence for their labor union. Ed Meese, chief advisor to Ronald Reagan, said the president-elect would take a serious view of a Soviet invasion of Poland. Ronald Reagan does not plan any direct involvement in foreign affairs until after inauguration. On domestic affairs, Howard Baker, the man likely to be Senate Majority Leader, said he favors a 10% tax cut by '81. And Voyager 1 is sending back pictures of Saturn and sounds like eerie screams. Scientists say that happens when solar winds strike the planet's magnetic field. I'm Jessica Savitch in Washington. More news later on this NBC station.
Anyone remember Jessica Savitch? Next month will mark 40 years since Jessica Savitch died. She died in October of 1983. At that time, I was an aspiring kid, dreaming about a career in journalism. I wanted to be that lady right there. And you'll see why here in a minute. If you don't remember Jessica, I think you'll recognize that she was truly something special. And unfortunately, her life was cut short at the tender age of 36. At the height of her career, she was at the national anchor desk at NBC News. She'd been there for several years and worked her way up to the top, which was extremely rare. Even Barbara Walters wasn't on the anchor desk. There weren't very many females who got that coveted gig. It was always a man, right? Because for most of broadcast history, we were told when we applied for jobs in this industry that nobody wants to listen to a woman read the news. They said that women's voices were not authoritative. They said that nobody wanted to watch women do the news on TV because other women would be jealous, right? They'd see this pretty woman sitting there all dolled up, and all the women sitting at home with curlers in their hair would hate her. And Jessica was beautiful. She was like knockout model pretty. But she showed us all that you could be beautiful and smart and be taken seriously and do the news so very well. So I thought this would be a nice thing to play for you in honor of Jessica Savitch, who still influences young journalists to this day. With the 40th anniversary of her death coming up, there's actually kind of a renewed interest in Jessica Savitch. And, there have been movies made about her life, biopics and whatnot. I think there's a new one coming out, a new book about her. But she changed my life, and I know she influenced a whole generation of female broadcasters and journalists to follow in her footsteps. And we're still trying to this day to be as good at it as she was. She died in a freak car accident, which was very similar to Chappaquiddick. Remember the Ted Kennedy incident, Chappaquiddick, where his car went off the bridge and a young lady died in the car, Mary Jo Kopechne. Oddly enough, the way Jessica died, I don't know if you remember this, but it was really strange. She was out to dinner on a date with a man, and in fact, he was the vice president of the New York Post. And they're out on a date, right? And they go to this restaurant, and afterwards, just as soon as they left the restaurant, they weren't drunk. They only found like half a glass of wine in their system, no drugs or alcohol involved. But it was a rainy night, pouring down rain. Instead of turning onto the main road, he took a wrong turn, ended up on a tow path, and drove into the water. And the car flipped upside down, and they were trapped inside the vehicle. Him, Jessica, and unfortunately her beloved dog, Chewy. And everybody knew Chewy. Chewy was always on the show with her. And they all died together. They were trying to get out of the car, and the doors wouldn't open. And it must have been a terrible way to go for several minutes. So that's how we lost Jessica Savitch 40 years ago. But I wanted to show you something from the very beginning of her career. She was at a local station in Philadelphia. And in 1977, she got the big gig. She got to go to NBC National in New York. And this was her last goodbye at her local station here in Philly. And it's just kind of a nice montage of Jessica Savitch and why we loved her.
As many of you already know, tonight is Jessica Savitch's last program with Eyewitness News. Starting next week, she will be with NBC in Washington and will also be seen anchoring from New York.
Yes, Roy, it has come to that portion of this particular broadcast they have labeled Savitch Farewell. This will be my final broadcast as an employee of KYW Television. Beginning in 2 weeks, I will take an assignment with NBC Network News. And since KYW is one of the stations across the United States that carries NBC News programs, my reports will continue to air right here on Channel 3, and what that means is that I find myself in the unique position of leaving and staying at the same time. The standard script on an occasion such as this one calls for you to thank everyone on the personal as well as the professional level who made it all possible. And I'm also told the script should be brief. That means you are charged with the awesome task of saying next to nothing and meaning almost everything. I've long been a believer in using the public airwaves for messages meant only for the public. And so all of those colleagues and friends and associates and the people I love who did indeed make this last 5 years in Philadelphia personally possible for me, all of those people I have personally thanked. And that leaves only one thank you left. The thank you that I have saved to fill the time the station has graciously allotted me. And that thank you is for you. There were times when we did well, and I would so much wish that you were watching. And there were times it wasn't so good, and I'd wish you'd blink. And I have to admit there were times I almost didn't believe you were out there at all. And then every once in a while, into this horizontal, vertical, 3x4, two-dimensional box of a world through which I'm required to communicate information, there would come a letter, or a phone call, a word on the street, or even just a feeling. And I would know that there was indeed a third dimension, that the message was received and the cycle complete, and that you were really out there after all. That's what I thought about as I labored to fill out the slot labeled Savitch Farewell. Not that this job meant almost everything to me for the last 5 years, but that somewhere in that time, it may have meant something to you. You made it all worthwhile, and I do thank you.
Well, we all wish Jess the best when she joins NBC, and we here at Eyewitness News have put together some of the highlights of Jessica's career at Channel 3.
I was afraid. What's happening. I don't mean the series to frighten you. On the contrary, I'll be taking a close-up look at Philadelphia rock. Police training is rugged and demanding, but then so is the job. Join me in training, on patrol, and in 2 major cities where it seems to be working. We don't promise you any answers in this series, just some information from experts and from people like yourselves you might want to consider before making a decision of life and death. Tomorrow, a look at how couples prepare to share the natural high of childbirth. Philadelphia traditions, Philadelphia neighborhoods, and Philadelphia people have been a part of Hollywood ever since all of those cattle feedlots became studio lots feeding entertainment to a nation.
I always tell a Philadelphian, and you can always tell if he's eating cupcakes.
Goodbye, my sister, please don't let me see you cry. Gonna be a star someday, no matter what they say. And when you hear the crowds all calling and shouting out my name, until then, my little friend, I'll be unsatisfied.
Well, Jessica was a typical teenager. I'm sure she had her excitable moments in high school, not always the calm person she appears on TV.
Really, I really wanted to look pretty, too.
One other item of note, Bill Custer, pay attention. For almost the first time in 5 years, I found out Jessica Savitch has ears.
This could definitely mess up a hairdo.
No kidding. What should I do about my hair? Either I could get a new hairdo or I could change direction. That's worse.
Sophisto evening lady of the air welcomes me in my easy chair. Green eyes that glow and yellow blonde hair, making the bad news sound good. I wish you'd come and cover me. Jessica, I love you so. I want you, don't you know? Oh, Jessica, I love you so. I want you, don't you know? Oh.
Jess, sorry I can't be with you on your last broadcast on Channel 3 News. But even on videotape, it's difficult to say goodbye to someone with whom you've worked so closely for 5 years. We are pleased, though, that you are joining NBC, so we can at least claim you as a member of our team. No one in Philadelphia TV has achieved more in such a short period of time. Needless to say, we're very proud of you. I wish you the best in the years to come. Good luck.
I don't care if that isn't right. We're not doing it again. Thank you. What can I say after I've said thank you? That was...
Good luck. You're going to
Roy,
be just great.
Thank you so much. People at Channel 3 are really terrific, and I'm really happy that we're going to turn the show over to Roy and that Vince did that, and you're all great, and I better be quiet.
Okay, let's go to Jack Jones, who's standing by for the 6 o'clock edition. Jack.
She had such a delightful laugh, didn't she? One of the things that I loved about Jessica Savitch, and one of the, I think, ways that she revolutionized television news was, you know, we were never allowed to express any kind of emotion, right? The anchor was always supposed to be stone-faced. You couldn't smile, couldn't laugh. It was, those things were inappropriate, right? But Jessica, when she was delivering a story that was particularly sad, she would kind of choke up. She wouldn't get hysterical, but she displayed some emotion. And when she was tickled, she would laugh. And she had this really infectious laugh and a beautiful smile. And, you know, news is obviously very serious business. You don't want to make a joke of it. But, you know, she made it okay to smile sometimes. And I think that the viewers need that. I think you need a little tension release when you're talking about such serious things. Sometimes a little humor is appropriate. You and I certainly have a lot of laughs on this program, Rick Walker. And that's one of the reasons that I just love working with you. And what a pleasure it is. I think we make a great team. And I wanted to take this opportunity tonight, as we did this almost 3-hour retrospective on great journalism. What a pleasure and an honor it is, and a privilege to work alongside you. And thank you for being my partner here at Maverick News.
Well, thank you. No, it's the privilege is mine. And you've been able to kind of connect us with some great people as well, and you're great at networking, and you bring a high degree of professionalism here. So I appreciate all of that.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you. Well, I don't know how to close this. There's only, I guess, one way to do it, right? We got to do it Huntley Brinkley style. So I'll just say, good luck and good night, Rick.
Well, I'll close this way.
Are you supposed to say good night, Lori?
Well, I know good night, Lori, but I want to say, I don't know if this is news, but that too is reality.
I like that.
And these days we could use a little bit more reality. So thank you.
We try our best, don't we? And thank you everybody for watching. We appreciate you. We'll see you back here next Saturday night at 9 p.m. Eastern for Strange Bedfellows. And good night from all of us here at Maverick News.
In a universe full of ideas, we draw lightness from the dark to a place where opposites attract. Right meets left, positive touches negative, sparking an explosion of truth. Because politics makes strange bedfellows.
This has been a Maverick Multimedia production.